Okay, so we're gonna do our first after action report or battle report or whatever the hell we want to call it. We'll keep it at AAR just for tradition's sake. I will upload the actual gameplay video first of this battle before this, but we'll just have a look at what happened in this game. So straight off the bat, and I've seen quite a few people do this, is that we go what I call First World War style tactics. So right down here in the middle, we have a straight frontal assault on the whole front line right into my line. And then here we have the second. So he's trying to do like a pincer move on this side. It doesn't work. What you end up here is what I call the First World War, World War I type strat, where we're just sending in dudes head on into the attack, and you're not gonna get anything out of it. The defender always has an advantage. You can see here in terms of morale gone, and once the morale goes, whatever advantage the defender has because he's not moving, he's not attacking, that affects the combat effectiveness. So now you see the differences in the health pools start to go down as well. So you want to avoid that. Don't be the first one to just have a full frontal assault on the front line. It doesn't work out, and this ends up being really bad in the long run because now you can see Steel's forces and this whole front line, they've already attrited and I now have an advantage. I do not, however, have a big enough advantage to like force a breakthrough. That's not gonna happen just yet. Uh, we have a breakthrough here in the middle, but as you can see, I know that Steele was pulling his guys off. There's no point in trying to push forward all the way. That's another big mistake, which you'll see happen here as well. Steele will make in the next offensive. Is that once you kind of know that the enemy is already pulled off, and this comes down to situational awareness really. If you know that he's pulled out the units and you haven't actually killed them, then they have got to be somewhere, and they've got to be somewhere, logically speaking, behind the lines in his cities. So I try a sneaky move here. I try to pull off a Commando raid with a single light unit. Nothing happens out of it. All it does is just force Steel to pull in defenders into the back line here, which maybe it kind of helped out. Maybe they didn't. I personally think that nah, this doesn't. This wasn't a success. This was a failure on my part, but I tried. So there goes that. This guy's not gonna survive. He's already out of supply for too long. And Fog of War, if I had known that there wasn't anybody on this side, I definitely could have microed my way and snaked my way off to this back one here. But, could have, should have, would have. Didn't know at the time, couldn't see that far. So Steel has done a pretty okay job now by recycling his units back into his cities. So he's holding the line here. I still have an advantage in terms of just troops. You can see on the bottom right here, I'm at 10,000 plus on in my favor. But that's not quite enough to still, as I said, force a major breakthrough. Now here's what I was talking about earlier, is that you do not have enough projection and power to try and push into the backlines here. As you can see here, it's just not going to work out. Even though my unit here that I've pulled back to defend is quite weak, his supply lines are just too damn far. And this comes down to how the cities project power. When I first started playing the game, and you can watch some of my earlier videos, I had no understanding that the cities themselves, they are like they have a massive amount of force concentration and projection, power projection, sorry. But there is no link between the different cities. So for example, if you're looking at Steel's territory here, if I'm like pushing in through the middle here, and I cap like one of these cities. I assume that the capital, I cap it. Even though I'm in the middle of nowhere and I'm surrounded by all his cities, they don't project the power like that much that gives him any kind of advantage. So if he tries to counterattack me, if I had captured this capital here, and he tries to push in here, he'd be at a massive disadvantage. That's the way that the game mechanics work, and it was a little bit confusing at the start because it didn't quite make sense, how the cities were all deployed. The game is not that advanced in terms of mechanics, so you got to keep that in mind if you're a new player into that. So we now have 40,000 troops in our favor. We have attrited and destroyed actually quite a lot since I was yapping on that side. I've tried another commando raid here, um, just because. I know that I've knocked out 50,000 troops. Maybe he doesn't have that many troops in reserve, which he doesn't in the southern side here. He until this maneuver where he brings in reinforcements from the north side, it was pretty weak, but it didn't quite work out. So I don't push too far forward. I don't make that same mistake. I pull it back, regroup with our lines, regroup the supply. This guy here, I send out just to check if he have anybody. And once I see that he does, then I pull it back. But I know that I have an advantage now, so I just need to keep a steady push and pressure on this side here. I'm a little bit slow on the micro here. So this maneuver here, this sweeping maneuver, I should have done that like easily 5, 6 seconds prior. I was too busy trying to micro this part here, which there wasn't much need to do much micro. It's all a stalemate anyway. So there's that. So I'm keeping an eye up on this north side. I know I've got a heavy unit. I can see these 3 units, but I don't see this heavy unit here that's being recouped and recovering. But I know I have an advantage in the north, so I'm keeping in the back of my mind is that I just need to wait for one more uh, opportunity, and then we're gonna sweep in from the north, see what we can do there. So now we're making major breakthroughs. We can afford to do this now because we have almost doubled the amount of troops. So it's a good time to attack. I'm now pumping out a ton of troops. With War of Dots, you don't need like this big numerical superiority in terms of units. It's not like in a more traditional RTS where you just spam as much as you can and then just hit the enemy with everything you've got. The way the war economy works is that you can only supply so many units on the front line. So despite that it's not as advanced as like Hoi 4, all the basic principles and fundamentals are still there. The way the gameplay works is almost exactly the same. You can't just spam everything like in StarCraft and just have it all go in at the hit the front line with everything. You won't be able to sustain that. So we've got several minor encirclements going on here. Once a unit's encircled, they take damage over time, and so you don't need to be too worried about trying to keep a unit marked on an encircled unit and keep attacking. So long as they're not threatening a city, you can basically leave the encircled unit behind and they will just die off. This part here was this ended up not being successful. I thought that I had treated him more than actually in reality was. So these 3 light units, they just die. I tried to break through to these 3 cities, but they were too low health from the main fighting on the front line, so no major breakthrough occurs there. But in the meantime, the front line here is completely collapsed, and there's nothing much that Steel can do here. It is basically Jover, but it is possible to throw the game. I have seen games, and there is actually a game where actually, you know what? I'll see if I can get the replay from Steel where he plays against Red. Both of these guys have been featured on this channel for a very long time now. There was a game where Red actually managed to get into this kind of position where I am, and then he still managed to throw the game. So it is still possible to actually make a comeback from this situation. I have seen it. I have seen it other videos of other people in a very similar situation. So it's not all completely lost. You can see that Steel doesn't never gives up. Steel will never like call quits until the game tells him so. For me, once I see that situation is already like gone too far south, no point in wasting everybody's time going through it. So long as I know that I've learned something as the game is being lost, then I don't mind calling it quits. But in this case here, Steel is gonna go all in. We're trying to go break through here. I almost outnumber him 3-1 at this point, so I'm okay with trying to snake units into the back line. But he's done an okay job here pulling back. Now here, once I see that he's pulled out all his fresh units, and I can see that these units, I can't actually see what the actual strength of the units are, but you can tell by the visual animation that this is an understrength unit. We're gonna start a northern offensive and then end the game here. So we can't quite get the capital. It's gonna be quite tough. We do have this city here to the south. We have his units surrounded. Now, once I see that I can bypass, I'm gonna try to do that instead. No point in trying to just go head on to a heavy unit. I don't think this guy makes, yeah, he doesn't make it. He was too low health from the fighting down here. But now opportunities open up in other flanks here. Almost got encircled there. That's all right. We encircle him instead. We can afford to do that because we have a 10-1 troop advantage. Our economy is also through the roof. So it's just a matter of just cleaning up the battle here. He makes a mistake here, moving it out of the city, and I just out micro him there. And yeah, it is basically over at this point. So I think I'll just end the video here. But yeah, this is the first after action report for War of Dots.